Uh, okay.
Okay,
All
okay.
right. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Raising Strong Will Kids Summit. My name is Andrea Miliani, and I'm your host. And today's guest is Tiffany Simpson. And Tiffany is a serial entrepreneur, best-selling author, in-demand keynote speaker, and respected parenting coach. Tiffany Simpson is regarded uh, as the authority on parenting and wellness. Her journey as supermom became apparent after her son was diagnosed with autism 9 years ago. It was during this challenge that she taught herself to create computer games and mobile apps to help her son overcome challenges with his speech and social skills. The results were amazing. Today, her son, Jaden Simpson, 12 years old, has his own business creating and teaching animation development. Thank you. Welcome, Tiffany. How are you?
Thank you. Yes, I'm doing great. And yourself?
I am good, thank you. I'm doing well. So tell me, how how can we understand children's behavior?
Okay, that is a very broad topic,
Okay.
but what I want to do is draw an illustration from my own experience and then kind of explain to you all how uh that or I should say those experiences or those challenges kind of open the avenue to learn and understand how children behave and why they behave the way they do and how you curb those behaviors, right? So before my son's diagnosis, um he used to throw these wild tantrums. Now his speech was not developing. I think it was about age 3 that he could only say the word yes audibly. And so in order for him to get any kind of attention about what he wanted, what he needed, he would throw these wild tantrums, right? So if he was hungry, if he needed to change or go to the bathroom, anything, um, it would it would be it would be expressed in those wild tantrums. And I remember one afternoon, right? I knew I had to do something because I was a single mom and I have my own business and I couldn't take him anywhere because he was throwing his wild tantrums and it started to affect the business. And I came to a crossroad where I thought, okay, maybe I should just throw in the towel and go and get a job. But then I thought to myself, if I go and get a job, then who am I going to leave him with? Right? And how would they be able to respond to these wild tantrums? And it became clear to me that something had to be done about the behavior, but to correct the behavior, I would then have to look at the cause of it, right?
Right.
So one afternoon, I was observing him. He was trying to tell me something, and his mouth was opening and closing, right? And he was
Yeah.
babbling, but his lips weren't moving to form the words, right? So that's when the idea came to me to use the camera on my cell phone to record my mouth while I was saying his name and other words he would have been saying at that time. And it took some time, but in about 4 months' time, he was saying his name, he was saying his age, and we started to do these little Q&A videos with the cell phone, and I would ask him, so what's your name? And then he would be able to respond with his name because he knew the word. He knew how to say it. He had learned how to say those particular words. And one of the things that became apparent during this period where we were creating these little videos and he was using them as some kind of speech therapy, is that the tantrum started to subside, right?
Yeah.
So one of the key things that stood out during that challenge, or trying to overcome that particular challenge, is that his tantrums were a cry for help, right? And this is usually the case with children. They're not just going to start acting up for no reason. It's a cry for help. And each child is different, so their cry for help will be different. But as parents, we should recognize that the child needs help, right?
Right.
Not discipline, which is something entirely different, right? So those behavioral issues, and it's not always aggressive, sometimes it's very passive, but they are cries for help, and they should be addressed as such.
That's interesting. Yeah, because a lot of people would see that they think right away disciplined and not hearing that they, like you said, a cry for help.
Yeah.
That's like a good point. That really is. That's a good point. Like how do we improve the help to improve the communication style? How can we like
Okay, well,
help the parents like with the child?
every child is different, and every situation is completely different from the other. But one of the things that will help you as a parent is to identify what triggered the behavior, right? What triggers specific behaviors in your child. So it could be a range of things, but as a parent, you are going to recognize, okay, when something specific happens, my child responds in this way. And so those are things you have to start paying attention to. And the first thing is to minimize those occurrences so that then you can start to neutralize the atmosphere in which you're trying to communicate with your child. If it's charged, then they're not going to hear anything from you. They're not going to listen. You say anything, it's going to go over their head because they're not prepared to listen, right? So
Right.
you have to neutralize your area, your atmosphere, so that it is conducive to open communication. And then, sometimes it's really as simple as asking questions. You know, when this happened, how does it make you feel? And get a dialogue going with your child about, what they're struggling with, right?
Right.
And start to open that communication line with where they feel safe and comfortable to come to you with their challenges. Because even though they're children and you're thinking to yourself, oh, they don't have any bills to pay, they in their
They
world they
still
still have
uh,
challenges that
yep,
need help
exactly.
with.
I mean, they have their different. They're not gonna even the same way people go like, I always talk about like the vision and uh, uh, how you talk about like with the wheel of life, and I actually kind of made my own kids version of the wheel of life, and it's like money is on there, but it's not
Yeah,
the same as money to an adult. But they
right.
still could be seven and still have their own feelings around money, and they have their own. So it's just like you said, it's a question, just question after question to dig deeper and to find out their true feelings. That's really cool. Um, how to remain calm at all times? How can help to remain calm at all times?
Yes.
Because I know a lot of times, the
Yeah.
parents getting frustrated, and I see that all the time. And I remember
Yeah.
I was there, just that calmness to try and keep yourself calm.
Yes. So one of the things you need as parents, we need to recognize is that when we lose our cool, it's because we're no longer in control of the situation, right? That's
Right,
the first
exactly.
thing to understand. You don't have any control over the situation. It's now above your head, and now you're scrambling for a solution, right?
Right,
First thing you want to do is stop, right?
right,
Regardless of how you feel about the situation, you have to be able to stop yourself. That's the first step in gaining control of the situation, is to first control yourself, right?
control yourself.
Once you've controlled yourself, then you will be able to recognize why you're feeling frustrated. In most cases, you have um, it's a build up, right?
Right,
So there was one situation that happened, it wasn't dealt with, and then something else happened, and then the day is going, you're not finishing your task. All these things are you're being bombarded, and then you just explode, right?
right. Because
What
it
you
makes
want to do is get is to quite, if you're already at the point where you have exploded, you have
right,
to you have to calm yourself. You have to pull yourself back, right? And then
right,
what you want to do is work on not having that build up, right?
right,
Don't allow things to crowd you and overlap, and then there's this, really overwhelming situation, and then you're visibly upset, and then of course that kind of breaks down the walls of communication between you and your children, because of course they're not going to be receptive to anything you're saying, because it's charged,
right.
right?
Like what they say too, I know a lot of times they always say, like I always say that it's to calm, you have to also remember that don't our kids react to the way we're reacting?
Right.
Like if we're gonna get all upset and have a bad reaction to things, and we're expecting them to be different, but they'll be like, you know what, that's not how you react, ma.
Yes. When you get upset, then you start yelling, you start screaming, and they would obviously think that um when they feel overwhelmed, that's the thing to do. Probably not yell or scream, but they start fidgeting, or just doing more than what they usually do.
Makes a lot of sense. I mean that, because that's just, yeah. Because I always found too with my kids, like my son,
Mhm.
he was diagnosed with ADHD when he was 7. He's 20 now. And I remember just, like when I stayed calm and just even he could be in the middle of a meltdown.
Mhm.
But as long as I'm there, as long as it's not escalating, but if I would leave it, like if I was calm, I mean he'll come out of it, and you know what? He won't it won't linger. It won't go on that long. If
Right.
but if I got all like yelling and screaming and what are you doing?
Yeah, then it keeps
It
escalating.
exactly it escalates higher. Now that makes a lot of sense. Now, how to improve children's self-esteem? What's the best way? Because children, they have a low self-esteem. That's like
Right.
I know I see that with my own, and it's like how do you help to build that self-esteem? Because they have that, they I think it's because, don't forget they're hearing negative like all the time,
Right.
negative
Right.
words. So
Right. Right. And one of the things that had helped me a lot, because my son, he learned very differently from the other kids. We had these videos, I created these apps, and from time to time the kids would um try to make fun of him because he's different, right? And he notices that he's different.
right,
And so it was very important for me to help him to tap into those things which were very unique about him, right?
Right.
And one of the things that was unique about him was being able to memorize things from a very early age. He wasn't very articulate until he was 7, but he could memorize anything that you told him to, right?
Right.
And
Exactly.
the mimicking wasn't just words; it was like facial expressions, speech, tone, and he would be able to do like these really cool, like commercial type videos.
Right.
And we would go out to businesses, and he would, you know, talk about their business and what they were doing, and he would put the videos on YouTube and Facebook and tag his friends, parents, so that they could show it to his friends. And
And your son was how
um,
old? How
at
old
that
was
time
he?
he was 7 because he could not speak. Um, there was still a big gap between what his comprehension level and things that he was just repeating, right? So he could mimic anything, facial expression. So he could do like commercial type um, videos, right? So that's what he
Right.
started with. And he started a little business, and we'd go out when we go out to have lunch or just to hang out. We do these videos and we post them up, and the kids liked it, the parents liked it. It was a positive reinforcement, and of course, that started to grow on him, right? And his confidence started to grow because he found something that he was really good at. And then
Right.
as time progressed, as he got older and his comprehension improved, he started to do his own research for animation development. And that's when he started his own business and he started teaching. And then, you know, the, that kind of helped to skyrocket everything because, it opened an avenue for me to parent him using entrepreneurship as a tool, and him having developed these skills. It's a way to kind of teach him life lessons through building a business with the skills that he has.
That's really nice. And he's 12, right?
He's 12 now.
That's really great, because my son was probably right around that age, and he started getting into that thing about wanting his own business on YouTube and making YouTube videos and just trying to like increase his like connections and have people subscribe and a subscriber. And he's 20 now and he's still plugging it
Yeah,
away. And I remember he was actually, well, he was 10 about when he started, 9 or 10, and he actually created, he just got little index cards and he made little
mhm,
business cards,
right. Hmm.
and he had his subscribe, and it was just amazing how just it's the creative mind. I think that's really,
Right.
really amazing. Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Well, like, what else would you want to add? Like, especially today, what would you want people to really take from today? Like, what are some of the tips that you would like to give to people that they could take from just today's talk?
Well, I think mainly I I would hope that because parenting is such a huge challenge, even if your children are deemed normal, right? And I hope that this discussion has helped in some way to kind of take away that feeling of hopelessness and directionlessness when it comes to parenting, and kind of helping your child to navigate their way through this life, right? And I know a lot of times, especially as moms, we feel guilty um, because, sometimes we think to ourselves, am I doing it right? As much as you're doing the best you could, sometimes you think to yourself, Am I doing it right? Are they going to make it out there on their own when I'm not around? And there are ways, there are techniques, there are guidelines that you could put in place to ensure that your child reaches his or her full potential. And I think that is the best you can do as a parent, right? Even if you don't know what to do in every single circumstance. And of course, you don't have an exact blueprint because your child is completely different from every other child. I think what you could take away from this discussion today that, you know, if you just focus on helping them reaching, help them to reach their full potential, then you have accomplished the biggest challenge when it comes to parenting. That's the ultimate goal, or it should be the ultimate goal to help your child reach their full potential.
I agree. I agree. That should be the most important thing because ultimately we want them to be able to be the best version of themselves and to be the best and to succeed, to be able to be okay when we aren't here.
Yeah,
No matter what, because they need to, and it's just reinforcement. Because I like the whole term. I know there's the neurodiversity, which I like into that because I don't like to think of it as, you know what, it's just a different way. As a I think it really is their superpower. It's not
right,
really, it's I don't like to look at it as a disability or it's their superpower because they're
right,
so creative and that's how every child needs to look at it, you
right,
know, because every child has a different ability. But
right.
that's a really good point. That's awesome. And I think you were going you had a free gift that you were offering
Yes,
everybody today?
yes. So yes, I have the link there to
Yes.
my audio book, How to Raise and How to Raise Amazing Children, right?
Awesome.
And I go through some of the challenges that I went through, how to what I did to overcome those challenges, and how you as parents can apply some of the same strategies to improve your I wouldn't say parenting style, but to improve the quality and outcome that you experience on a day-to-day basis. Because once the days are light and you're able to stay ahead of your task and your and the things that you want to accomplish, then the rest is easy sailing.
Awesome. That's great. That's great. That's so good. And you have a website, right? And how people, if they want to reach out to you, can they get a hold of you or?
Yes, my website is supermom.coach and my email address is tiffany@supermom.coach.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. Really gave a lot of good information, Tiffany. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much for today. Okay. Wait, hold on. Where's the.
It's back on.
Wait.